It's the people that make the business.
Welcome.
Yeah.
I am Peter Hissey. I'm hosting a podcast, the SEA podcast, where we highlight entrepreneurs doing really cool things in our world. So our guest today, Kevin Hartsoe, the owner of New Dynamics and New Dynamics International. Welcome.
Thanks, Peter. Appreciate you inviting me on this podcast.
Yeah, we do this podcast for the entrepreneurs in our network, for the advisors we work with in the business owner community, and really, Kevin's someone who's been a business owner for the better part of 3 decades, has had experience buying a business, growing a business, and then exiting a business. So really excited to have here. So Kevin, would love for it to start with just share your entrepreneurial journey by maybe what was the first job you had?
So I served my apprenticeship as a tool and die maker with Crass Corporation starting in the 70s. Served my apprenticeship as a tool and die maker and then worked for them for the better part of 16, 17 years. And they migrated to Hong Kong and kept a small operation in southeastern Pennsylvania. And that's where I kind of got my taste of entrepreneurship. Myself and a couple other guys rented their facility and built tooling for them as subcontractors.
So as you think about your career, did you have any instrumental mentors those first 15 years or so that set you up for where you are and where you got to?
Not really mentor, so to speak, but we did have a fairly good network of other business owners that own machine shops because we were coordinating builds and stuff. So I got a little bit of exposure to those type of management skills.
So Kevin, I've heard this story a lot, and it's always interesting. Talk to me about how you became an employee. You were, apprentice to eventually toolmaker. Talk to us about owning a business and acquiring a business.
When Crass migrated to Asia, I was offered a position in Hong Kong. My at that time, my life wasn't in a position where I could pack up and move, so I stayed local here and ended up getting a job at New Dynamics. I worked for Carl for the better part of 3 years, and then he made me shop foreman. And within a year or so, he started saying to me, "You should buy my business." And I just, Peter, I know you've heard this story, but I literally thought he was kind of crazy. But long story short, I was getting my taxes done. I mentioned to my accountant, and I believe it was 1997. I mentioned to my accountant that this German gentleman I was working for was interested in selling his business, and he kept saying to me that I should buy it. So we signed an NDA. I shared financials with my accountant, and we ran some numbers. And he said, if you do this, this, and this, the business will pay the debt that you'll incur. With that being said, in 1999, I hocked my 401k, took a second mortgage out on my house so I could get enough money for the down payment, and we were off and running. At that time, it was July 1st, 1999, when we went to settlement.
Wow. I would ask what your biggest fear is when that happened.
Yeah, it was a very big step for me. Luckily, I had a wife that was behind me, stood behind me the whole time. She encouraged me. It was an unknown, but it was a risk that I thought that I had to take based on my experience previously.
Yeah. What do you feel gave you the confidence to do it? Or did you imagine yourself at that career continuing on working for somebody else? Did you want to run something yourself, or was it I either need to do this or look for a job?
Well, I wanted to run something myself. I knew the industry. I knew the business very well. Had worked in semiconductor tooling since I was 17 years old. Had a very good grip on how things were built, and the team here was very good. The guys around me were very very good craftsmen at that time, and I had the confidence that if I could get in front of customers, I can tell them how we can build their tooling, and it's been a pretty good ride.
Yeah. Did you have any coaches?
So interesting enough, in 2002, we did a fairly large project for a Chinese manufacturer and at that time ESC was still in business, Equipment for Semiconductors, and Dave Campbell was the president and owner of ESC. He was bought out by Orthodyne Electronics and came to me and asked me if I would be interested in starting an equipment company at that time. Where the whole NDC International equipment distributorship was born. So Dave was a very good mentor. He was a seasoned veteran, 30 plus years in the industry, a very good businessman, had distributorships all around the world, and was very successful. He coached me along the way.
What's something you wish you would have known starting out? Because you obviously knew the craft really well, but being a business owner, you got to worry about people paying their bills, you paying bills, a
Yeah,
lot of that.
there was a big learning curve for myself with regard to, the whole billing, because we had a very blue chip customer base. I mean, we dealt with customers like Texas Instruments, Fairchild Semiconductor, a lot of very big companies. At that time it was, which is now Skyworks. At that time it was Rockwell Collins, and a lot of Mill Aerospace customers that we dealt with. So we had some really blue chip customers, and the whole financial end of it with invoicing and things like that was pretty brand new to me.
Yeah, no, I'm sure. Uh, as you look back at your career, what maybe some of the early days or middle days, what were some of the highlights? Do you have a few highlights of moments you went home, you're like, man, I'm so happy I did this. Like, what were some of the highs?
So we definitely had our highs and lows throughout the 25-year period where I owned the business. One of the things that really stands out for me, we had two very big customers. One of them was an automotive supplier out in the Midwest for that did rear view mirror work, and they became a very big customer. So they were really helping fuel us with several large jobs every couple of years. That actually allowed us to buy really high end equipment to do their work. So that was one of the things that helped us. And then later on, right before COVID, we got involved with a very large car manufacturer, and we're very instrumental in helping them develop their rotor core technology for over molding electric motors for EVs. So that's really helped fuel our business.
Yeah. What were some of your toughest moments as the owner of the business?
Oh, when times got slow and I had to lay people off. We didn't do that very often, but as you can imagine, a very close knit, tight group of
Yeah.
people. It's hard. That's one of the hardest things I've had to do.
Yeah. No, I know we've talked about it in different business environments where when things are going great, it's great. Everyone's enjoying it, and when things aren't,
Yeah.
it's tough as you're having those conversations and having a team and making sure everyone's aligned. It's hard not to think how it affects your culture when people say, "Oh, I've heard it said before, oh, our culture's like a family." As you think about your path as an owner, how did that evolve over the last 20 years? In the beginning, were you doing more, hey, I got to do anything to grow the business? Did it evolve into now I've got to be maybe not in the day to day as much? Like how did your ownership path evolve? And then maybe even finishing after exiting the business, you're still involved in it. How's that going?
Yeah, so I never really got out of the day to day. We still work very closely together. It's still the same team here. We've added a couple of new team members. We always had that can do attitude, and I always jokingly say we could build a space shuttle if somebody could give us the drawings for it. But realistically, we did just about anything we needed to do in order to keep the business growing and surviving.
Yeah. So what advice would you have? I know you're really involved in a manufacturing program in a local school. They'll come in. What advice do you have to those students or to the aspiring entrepreneur or business owner?
Well, with the resurgence and the onshoring coming back to the United States, I think it's going to be a very good opportunity for manufacturing in the United States. There's a lot of technology out there, a lot of new technology. We just learned about additive technology where you can actually add steel. So that interesting that the military is actually very interested in this because they need to be able to manufacture parts right on aircraft carriers and ships. So instead of having to carry steel to make the parts, they can actually print the parts from a steel powder to a near net shape and then machine it into what it needs to be. It's definitely a very dynamic industry growing.
No, that's great. As I think about the future of manufacturing, there's a lot of talk about it coming back to the U.S. Uh, as you think about your future, you've been able to make this impact from Ivy Land, PA.
Yeah, it's definitely a feather in the cap, and it's not just me; it's the team here. The
Yes.
guys around us that work here, the engineers that we have, and the tool makers are the ones that really have facilitated and making this happen. We've got a very good reputation for development and helping customers take something from inception all the way through manufacturing. So, and we've got some very cool opportunities coming up for companies that start with a T and other company starts with an S. So we're doing some really cool stuff out there, and I watch the launches very closely.
That's really cool. I actually just read a book about someone who started their own space company, and it's
Yep.
really cool how involved in that path and that journey. So pretty cool that you're a part of that. So Kevin, I did tell you I was going to ask you about some of the horns behind you. Is there a story behind some of those?
Not really. I'm a pretty avid outdoorsman. I enjoy deer hunting and getting out in nature quite often. I bird hunt a lot with my lab, and I just enjoy that. It's something that I can kind of mindless. I can kind of shut the rest of the world off and go out and sit in either a blind or a tree stand where it's real quiet and just kind of be in nature. It's one of the things I've been done since I was a kid.
Yeah. And now when you're out there, are you able to fully unplug, turn the phone off? No one's bothering you from business, or are you sometimes making calls from the tree stand?
This is like true confession. It's hard for me to turn it off.
Yeah. No,
I'll leave it at that.
yeah, no, I'm sure. So Kevin, this has been awesome sharing, with our network about what it is to be a business owner, some of the highs, some of the lows. I know one of my takeaways is having a team with a can-do attitude is,
Yeah.
makes the life of an owner. And another thing you always go back to is it's not me, it's the team, because that allows
Yeah.
you to really grow.
And that, Peter, that's one of the things you point out very well. And it took me a while to really learn that it's not all about business, that it's the people that make the business. If you don't have a core team and you don't have a good people around you, your business isn't going to succeed.
Thank you so much for joining us. Really excited to continue to follow your entrepreneurial journey, and thanks for encouraging those people who are able to listen today.
Thanks, Peter. Sure appreciate it.